Great. Okay, so welcome and congrats for giving yourself this time to get some education or just some reminders or just some encouragement about this topic of the fact that we can practice healthy habits to reduce inflammation in our body. And so I'm Heather Smith, and I am a health coach. I've been in business for 7.5 years. My background is fitness. So this topic is really important to me because I saw people who struggled with inflammation for years and years and years before I even got into health coaching. So super important. Michelle, Jenny, you want to do a quick introduction?
Hi, my name is Michelle Fletcher, and I am from Texas. I've been health coaching for, my goodness, yesterday I said yes to coaching, so 8 years ago. And you know what? I was on the side of health of where I had all kinds of signs of inflammation. I had horrible health. I've actually lost 87 pounds. And so this topic of helping others be able to reduce this is really near and dear to my heart. So, Jenny?
Thank you guys for joining us. I'm Jenny, and I am in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I have been coaching for about 7 years now. And any information health related is a big interest for me. I love diving in, and I just love these types of topics, and I'm excited to share them with others.
Awesome. Okay, so I'll get us started. And first, I'll tell a really fast story. So this week, I had an inflammatory response. And it's okay because I knew what was going to happen. So I had a person say something to me that was inflammatory. And it's not a person I'm close to. And really, what the person said, it wasn't a personal attack. And honest to goodness, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But it really ruffled my feathers, so to speak. And so when I heard this comment, I noticed a shift in my body. Okay. My breathing got really shallow. My shoulders and my chest got really tense. I felt like my stomach clench up a little bit. My hips kind of got tight. And I was like, this thing. Okay. You know what I'm talking about. Like, blink or raise your hand if you have felt this thing happen to you. And so I had two choices. I could either decide to continue to let this acute inflammatory response attack my body, or I could say, whoa, hey, no, I'm going to step back from this. This is my body and I am in control of it, and I can breathe and I can step out of this. And so, not that I'm perfect at this, I do not claim to be perfect, but this learning these skills and this information has helped me practice how to like rewind and step away and say, okay, I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to let my body do its healthy, natural thing. It takes about 90 seconds for your body to flush out that cortisol and get the systems cooled and calmed and back to normal. And if you know some tools to make that happen, you can be way healthier and happier. If I had continued to hold on to that for the rest of the hour, the rest of the day, the rest of the week, who knows how terrible I would feel about today. And this was a few days ago. So all that's to say, it's really good to know first the difference between acute and chronic inflammation. So acute inflammation is actually a really great thing. And that's just when your body sends out inflammatory cells to attack a virus, a bacteria, if you have an injury, and it, sends out these inflammatory cells to deliver, nutrition and blood supply to a sick or an injured area. Okay, so that's really good. That's a good thing, right? The kind of inflammation that we are talking about today is not when we're trying to heal damaged tissue or attack a virus. This is the inflammation that happens when your body sends out inflammatory signals, but you're not injured. You're not hurt. Your health is not at risk. You're not sick. It's just sending these cells that says attack, attack, attack. And if that continues to happen, it can cause damage in our body. And then what happens is it can cause damage to blood vessels, joints, to your heart, your brain, other body systems, your gut. And so what happens is we have to notice when we have these effects of that, these side effects, like stiff joints. Sometimes your doctor may even notice it and talk to you about that side of things, but sometimes skin issues, even cancer, stroke, Alzheimer's disease. These are results, autoimmune disease. These are results of chronic inflammation oftentimes. So I'm not going to go too much into that science, but just know there is a big difference between good acute inflammation that we need and chronic inflammation that just attacks our body cells and just goes at it and goes at it. And we don't want that, because then we hurt and we ache and we feel uncomfortable and our systems don't function on all the cylinders like they should. So, some basic causes of chronic inflammation that you might be experiencing. And feel free to take notes, but I'm going to ask you to do like a little short exercise at the end after we talk about the habits that can slow inflammation. So, you want to start thinking about which one of these habits that we talk about you can start plugging into your day so that you can start getting some inflammation down. So the first one is the foods we eat. Jenny's going to talk about this in a minute, but the foods we eat impact our inflammation levels and what we drink, obviously, too. Also, our external environment. So that could be toxins from pesticides, plastics, environmental toxins, like stuff that's in the air, stuff that you're coming into contact with. Also, stress from the environment that, like my person today or this week who really irritated me. Excess UV rays, radiation. So those are external environmental inflammatory factors. And then we also have internal environment that affects our stress. So this would be if you have chronic infections, visceral body fat that's extra that we don't need around our organs, lack of sleep. So if we're really super fatigued, it can be inflammatory. Lack of physical activity. If we're sedentary, we don't exercise, high inflammation. And also depression and other emotional disorders. So here's some tips to help you cool off, help you to calm your systems. Jenny, you want to go ahead and give us some nutrition tips?
Sure. I'm going to put the foods in two different categories. The foods that cause inflammation, we need to know what those are. And then we also need to know what foods fight inflammation. So things to avoid, things to add if you don't currently have them in your diet. And remember, reducing inflammation is about restoring balance to an unbalanced system or immune system. So the foods to avoid, and you may or may not be aware of some of these, but in addition to just taking in more calories than you need, that's one, just an excess intake of calories. Specifically the foods, refined grains. Refined grains are products like white flour, white rice, corn grits, white bread. These items are all void of dietary fiber, iron, and B vitamins. So those are the refined grains, and there are healthy grains, but those are the ones we want to limit or avoid. Also simple sugars like table sugar, simple syrup that may or may not be in an alcoholic drink, honey, sugared sodas, and candy. That's probably the more obvious of the ones. Then another form of sugar is high fructose corn syrup. That is found in, again, sugared sodas, processed foods, and highly processed and packaged baked goods. Okay. And now so those are the sugar categories. There are the fat categories, and the fats can get a little confusing from time to time. We hear about good fats and bad fats. The fats that we want to reduce that can lead to increased inflammation in the body are omega-6 fats. And omega-6 fats are found in sunflower oils, peanut oil, sesame oil, fried foods, corn oil. Those are the oils to avoid. Saturated fats are another category of foods to avoid. Fried foods, lard, butter, fatty red meats. And then another category of fats, again, it can get confusing, trans fats. Those are items like shortening, microwave popcorn, Frozen pizza, fried foods, and margarine. Again, these are things we want to limit. You know, it's really hard and it can be just as stressful to try to eliminate these things out of our diet. That's not necessarily the goal. The goal is to limit. And then the last thing, or the last food that contributes to inflammation are charred foods, burnt foods. I don't know if you guys have heard, you don't want to eat a really burnt s'more with the really burnt marshmallow on it. The charring can lead to inflammation. So those are the foods we want to avoid or limit or be aware of and how much we're intaking. Shall I go into the foods that we want to incorporate, Heather? Okay. Okay. Generally speaking, a diet rich in fruits and vegetables, grains, low in processed foods. That's generally speaking how you want to eat to reduce inflammation. Again, more specifically, foods to incorporate that fight the inflammation response in our body are polyphenols. And that's kind of a big word for things like red berries, blueberries, raspberries, cocoa or dark chocolate. Now, dark chocolate being reducing inflammation if it's about 70% or above in cocoa. So milk chocolate, it probably is not going to have the same effect as a dark chocolate, unfortunately. Red wine, again, in moderation. Too much alcohol can cause an inflammatory response. The right amount of alcohol, particularly in a red wine, can provide your body with these polyphenols that help reduce inflammation. You know yourself best. You know that if you would be able to handle that particular thing in moderation or not. Is it going to serve you or harm you? That's kind of an individual choice and an individual decision that you'd want to be aware of. The fats that are healthy are the omega-3 fatty acids. And those are olive oil, flaxseed oil, canola oil, salmon, bluefin tuna, halibut, walnuts, and edamame. So those are the healthy fats. Again, with things like walnuts, in moderation, you don't want to get the benefits of the healthy fat in addition to adding, you don't want that with the excess calories. So just again, in moderation. Some specific herbs that can help reduce inflammation are ginger, rosemary, and turmeric. And then vitamin D. The vitamin D is found in egg yolks, salmon, and fortified cereals. And I'm going to use fortified cereals with a little bit of caution there as well too. You have to be really careful in reading the label and the boxes. And you want to make sure that it says fortified cereals. That means it's fortified with vitamins and minerals that can help fight inflammation. It is not necessarily whole grain cereal. That's not the same thing. Total cereal, if you're looking for a brand name, Total is one of the cereals that's highly fortified. And if you're looking for cereals on your own, it should say fortified on the box. You may have to dig and look a little bit, but you want it to be less than 6 grams of sugar per serving and at least 3 grams of fiber per serving. So that is a basic rundown of the foods to avoid to decrease inflammation and foods to start incorporating if you haven't already.
All right, Michelle, you want to hit us with a couple of lifestyle tips from there?
Sure. First off, I kind of want to just talk about stress and things that may cause some stress in your life. And then I'm going to kind of give you a few things to release that stress. So, for instance, when we feel stressed, our body releases a stress hormone like cortisol, which causes inflammation. So, basically, whenever stress can also mess up our good and our bad bacteria in our gut, which can sometimes cause a leaky gut. So with all of that being said, that it can also, when we have a leaky gut, that can also cause issues to enter into our bloodstream and cause more inflammation. So those are two things that we kind of want to watch out for. Also, when we are stressed and our body, we kind of sometimes have this fight or flight situation that kind of happens. And what is happening is when our body it shifts blood away from our organs, like from our stomach toward our muscle, which is what the fight and flight is. That can upset our digestive system, which also will lead to gut inflammation. So the longer you stay stressed out about things, with it being anxiety, anger, depression, those stress hormones just keep rising and your cortisol levels get higher, which causes even more inflammation. And that leads to disease. So let's see here. Also, when we start having a lot of stress, we kind of get into like a habit loop sometimes with where we are continuing to eat unhealthy things. For instance, or if we're eating unhealthy, we're not wanting to eat healthy, we're not wanting to exercise, our sleep becomes poorly, we may be having alcohol or tobacco, and it just becomes this vicious little loop cycle of us being in a stress, and it can kind of keep you there. And so that's like where they call it encouraging bad habits, is this really bad cycle that you can get yourself into, which can lead to more inflammation. So chronic stress can cause inflammation all over your body, which is linked to heart disease, autoimmune disease, which Heather already discussed a lot of this, but I want to take you through a couple of techniques. And one is a breathing exercise. It's called the box breathing. So with that, I'm going to kind of give you the directions on how to do this. And I want you to participate in this because this is something that will help you relieve stress. A lot of times we do a lot of shallow breathing, and when we get stressed, we just are breathing shallow and need to take a few minutes to even do the deeper breathing. So with that, I want you to, be comfortable as you're sitting, kind of get your back straight and your shoulders kind of relaxed. You can close your eyes if you want to. And I want you to take a few deep breaths just to relax your body. So we're going to do that for just a few minutes. Just take a few deep breaths. So now what we're going to do is we're going to inhale deeply through your nose for a count of 4 seconds. And you should feel this in your chest and your abdomen expanding as you fill up your lungs with air. Okay, so let's take in a deep breath and hold it for 4 seconds. As you start releasing and exhaling, you should also count out to 4 as well as you're relaxing. Okay, and you should exhale through your mouth. So we'll do this one more time because as I'm talking, it's hard to do this exercise.
Hey, can I share a tip, Michelle? I like
Yes.
to actually draw the box with my finger. For if anybody's a visual person like me, you might want to actually inhale with the side of the box, hold, exhale, and then rest at the bottom. Maybe I'm a weirdo, but that does help me.
No, that's why it's called the box breathing. Thank you for sharing that. So we'll just do that again. Okay, so inhale, up, and then go across. So you're holding it. Exhale it, down. And you should start to feel your body relaxing. And you should do this a couple of times through the day, but especially if you're stressed or you're just feeling anxiety, different things coming on, that is really a great way to release some stress. And another thing that I wanted to share with you, hang on just a second, I got to look at my notes. Getting regular massages, treating yourself to that, even getting your spouse to rub you down a little bit or whatever it may need, feet rubbing, whatever it may be, but just getting some massages to release some stuff. And another thing it's springtime. So they call it like forest bathing, which here in Texas, we ain't got no forest, okay? But it's springtime. So getting your shoes off, getting your hands in the dirt and kind of grounding yourself and planting some things. I don't know about y'all, but whenever I'm in nature, hearing the birds singing, and I don't know, it just relieves the stress. It lowers your blood pressure and it actually helps your immune system by doing some of that stuff. Yoga is a great form of exercise to do. And I'm sorry, I thought I turned off these notifications. But another thing that is really good is, and I really think COVID messed us up with some of this, but is, we got out of the habit of being really social and we need community. So finding, people to be social with is such a good thing. What we're doing today is huge for all of us, is being surrounded by like-minded people, and it's good for your health. So that's a little bit about managing your stress. And I'm just going to jump on over into sleep as well. Getting enough good sleep is super important to make your body less inflamed. This is where we take the time to heal our body. And it is so important that we take the time to really let our body rest. It's when it's repairing itself. Uh, and with that, constantly, I mean, if you can consistently get anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of sleep, that is a good amount of time for your body to um, repair itself. I'm more toward the 8 hours, but I know a lot of people that's hard to do. But 6 to 8 hours is a good start. Also, setting your temperature of your room on the cooler side, you will that is really important as well. We seem to sleep better when it's cooler. And be mindful of the sounds and noise within your environment. Turn off the TV, turn off your cell phone notifications, the lights, different things like that can, even though you may be in a sleep, certain things can be happening and it's waking you up and you're not even realizing it, and you're not able to repair like you should be able to. Also, limit your alcohol and your caffeine no later than 2 p.m. No cups of coffee after 2. And the amount should be no more than 3 cups a day is what is usually recommended. But if you can limit your alcohol and caffeine, your body will actually repair better as well. And just finding a relaxing bedtime routine, like a gratitude list, stretching before you go to bed, washing your face, reading a book, just kind of in that twilight hour of getting your body into a regiment of, I'm winding down, I'm going to relax, it's time to go to bed. Instead of, I know I have been a fan of this thing, and where I've been in the bed and my fingers start cramping sometimes because I'm laying in bed holding my phone too long. I've lost some time for my body to be able to decompress. And because sometimes some of this stuff that's on this lovely thing can stress you out before you go to bed. So just keep some of those things in mind to be able to get enough quality sleep and allow your body to heal, because so many people lack sleep. And honestly, that's where your body does all of its healing. So I hope that that's been helpful. Heather, back to you.
Actually, Michelle, I'm going to add one more healthy habit on here to help reduce inflammation. And you touched on it a little bit, yoga, reducing stress. And in that, we would just say movement and exercise, consistent movement daily. If you have an watch, pay attention to your watch and watch your steps. But there are a number of experts out there right now that are saying that sitting is the new smoking, and that sitting is now considered to be one of our most ignored health threats of our time. So be conscious of the amount of time that you sit versus the amount of time that you're standing and moving. And I am also the type of person that needs to understand why I'm doing something. And the lack of movement is activating our immune system, falsely, inaccurately activating our immune system, which is what we're trying to calm down and balance out. So just remember movement, exercise, aerobic exercise, anything that gets the heart and lungs moving, as well as yoga that serves a dual purpose, movement as well as stress relief. And one of the poses in yoga that I highly recommend for stress relief, and I did this a lot during COVID, is legs up the wall. You lay flat on your back, get into an L shape, put your legs on the wall, and just hang out there and breathe for a while. So that was just one thing I wanted to add in on to yours, Michelle, before we jump back to Heather.
That's perfect, Jenny. Oh my gosh. And thank you, Michelle. That's perfect. Love legs up the wall. If you don't know what she's talking about, write yourself a note right now to try it. And you maybe lay some pillows or a rug or a exercise mat down on the floor, like right against the floorboard, and lie on your back and literally make a right angle with the wall with your legs. And it is crazy. Just lay there with some deep breathing. It's crazy how effective that is at releasing stress. Now, listen to your doctor and, take your healthcare provider's advice if you have any kind of injury that would be unsafe for you. So please keep that in mind. So let's close. Last minute, 2 minutes. If you guys can stay on. I will share with you a tips sheet. So I know it was a lot of information. So whoever invited you will share a little tips sheet on some of these habits that can help reduce your inflammation. And just be so mindful of like that moment I described in the beginning of like that the inflammatory cells trying to attack you. And that feeling where it's literally like feels like an attack. Sometimes it's a tingling sensation. For me, it was a tightness and a shallow breathing. And my body, like Michelle said, was preparing for fight or flight. And I didn't need to fight. I didn't need to flight. Okay. I just needed to breathe and let my systems go back to normal. Let that cortisol go back to its hiding place. I didn't need it. Yeah, just get going. So I would encourage you to take one of these things that we talked about today. Grab a piece of paper if you're not driving, and if you're able to, grab a Post-it note or type it into your phone. Write down one of these habits. I'm going to take a walk outside. Maybe I'm going to try box breathing. Maybe I'm going to add a healthy fat. Maybe I will, find an exercise video or class that I want to take so I can be social and move my body more. Maybe you want to decide to add some soothing vitamins into your meals. Choose one. You don't have to choose all of these. Choose one and decide today, write it down, decide today that you're going to commit to it. And writing it down is key. Second is I want you to look at it every day. Because when we set a goal to implement a habit, if we are not looking at it over and over, our brains really are just like, think about a toddler. Like we need to be told over and over and over in order to believe something, in order to remember something. So our brains really need elementary assistance if we are going to create a new habit loop, a healthy new habit loop. And we'll start to learn eventually that when we do this, we start to feel good, right? So look at your note card or your Post-it note. You look at your sheet with this habit written down, look at it daily. And next big thing is share it for accountability. You can share it with the person who invited you to the Zoom, share it with your partner, your neighbor, your exercise buddy, your coworker, whoever sees you, whoever's going to know if you're sticking to it. Text them your goal right now. Let them know, because if you don't speak it, it may not happen. Okay, so hold yourself accountable. Let someone else hold you accountable. And then last thing I will say is track how your body feels when you implement this habit. Really be mindful of how it helps you to check yourself, especially like for me, it's breathing. I got to go move my body. And, that rhythm of moving my body, even if I'm not going to work out, even if I just take a little short walk, it helps to calm me down and it helps to get my breathing back to normal if I take some deep breaths. Really note, at least take a mental note of how that makes you feel. If you notice you're relaxing, if you notice you're calming down more, if you notice emotionally you're responding better in a stressful situation or during a busy time. And I'm very curious to see how that's going. And yeah, Michelle's going to do legs up the wall and breath. I love it. And so please let us know if this is helpful. I hope that you learned something or something was affirmed that you already knew that you can take into your weekend and take into next week that can help you to be a little healthier, because it's too beautiful outside for most of us anyway. Spring is sprung, and maybe not Colorado for Trisha, but we want to be outside, or at least moving more and feeling good and enjoying life. And so if we can get these habits going, then all our body systems work more efficiently and more effectively, and we feel better. So that being said, thanks everyone for coming. I'm going to stop record. You are welcome to stay on and hang out with us and ask questions and chat as long as you'd like.